Hello students, myself Iqbal Singh. In this particular video, I'm going to have a discussion with you on the very important topic of soft power. Students, when we try and understand international politics, it is very important to understand the power dynamics in the world, because we always say that international politics is nothing but struggle for power. In international politics, various sovereign states are competing with each other for power resources. A power struggle is going on, which often results in conflicts and wars. Therefore, it is very important to develop a crystal clear conceptual clarity over the idea of power in order to understand international politics. And when we talk about power, there are so many dimensions of this idea which have emerged over the years. In fact, different types of concept of power have emerged in international politics. For example, the idea of hard power, that is a traditional idea. Then we also have the idea of soft power, smart power, sharp power, fast power, structural power. There are so many different ideas and concepts of power which have emerged. However, in this particular video, students, I'm going to help you understand the idea of soft power. We are going to have a detailed discussion on the idea of soft power. We're going to discuss how this particular idea has emerged, why it has emerged, and also what is the relevance of this idea in international politics. However, before you understand soft power, you need to briefly understand about the hard power. As I told you, students, in international politics, we often say that international politics is all about struggle for power. A power struggle is going on in international politics. And when we talk about power, the traditional idea of power is called the hard power idea. The hard power idea has been more popular also and also more commonly used. Hard power means military power plus economic power of a state. Military plus economic power of a state is described as hard power of the state. The ability to give military threats and economic threats, and also the ability to execute military and economic threats, is described as hard power of the state. However, students, since the end of Cold War, we have seen a trend that the relevance and significance of hard power over the years have been reducing. And why it has been reducing? There are multiple reasons for that. I will discuss few of them for you. For example, since the end of Cold War, we have seen emergence of a world of globalization. In a globalized world, what has happened? One of the consequences of globalization has been economic interdependence. Economic interdependence is one of the consequences of globalization. Today, in a globalized world, economies are interdependent. Sovereign states have developed economic interdependence. For example, US and China are rivals, but at the same time, China is one of the biggest trading partners of America also. India and China have rivalry. India and China has a border dispute. You may be very well aware about that. But at the same time, China is also one of our largest trading partners. So there may be conflicts and rivalries in the world, but at the same time, a lot of economic interdependence have also developed. For example, if a negative economic event happens in America, that will also have an adverse impact on Indian economy. If the American stock market is going to crash, then next morning you will see Indian stock market will also crash. Why? Because there is an economic interdependence between Indian and the American economy. The same set of companies, the same set of MNCs are doing businesses in America also and in India as well. Similarly, Indian companies, Indian manufacturers are dependent on supply chains of China. So Chinese economy and Indian economy is also interdependent. So there is an economic interdependence which have existed in the world because of globalization. Now, because of economic interdependence, giving and executing economic threats have become difficult. Using economic power or using economic threats have become difficult. For example, Donald Trump government, American government last year in the year 2025, they targeted China and they tried to impose very heavy tariffs on China. In fact, Trump's reciprocal tariff policy was launched, as a result of which America and China started fighting a tariff war or a trade war against each other. However, very soon America realized that they cannot afford to impose these heavy tariffs on China. Why? Because American economy is dependent on the Chinese economy. American MNCs, American companies are manufacturing in China. They will suffer. Then also America, which is the biggest consumer of products in the world, one of the biggest consumer of goods in the world, they import majority of the manufactured products from China. Now, all these products will become expensive because of tariffs, which may increase inflation in America. So therefore, if Americans, they impose tariffs on China, it will also have an adverse impact on the American economy. That is when America realized that their economy is dependent on the Chinese economy. China also dominates the supply chain of critical minerals. Therefore, they cannot overnight de-link American economy from the Chinese economy. And that is when America realized that they would not be able to continue with these economic threats. They would not be able to impose such tariffs on China, such heavy tariffs on China. That is why Trump had a meeting with the Chinese leader Xi Jinping last year, and they signed a truce deal, they signed a trade deal where both countries agreed to reduce tariffs on each other. So that is what happened, which helps us understand that because of economic interdependence, because of globalization, executing and implementing economic threats is not easy anymore. It has become more difficult and more complex. Similarly, students, states cannot give military threats to each other in the same manner like they used to give earlier. Why? Because today in the world, if you look at world politics today, 9 states of the world has acquired nuclear weapons. So the 9 nuclear weapon states in the world today. Now these 9 nuclear weapon states cannot execute military threats against each other. They cannot get into a military confrontation with each other. Even though they want to, they cannot. Why? Because of the concept of a nuclear deterrence. Because of the concept of nuclear deterrence, these nuclear weapon states, they would not be able to fight wars against each other. For example, America, even if they want to, they cannot fight a war against China. Even if America wants to, they cannot start a direct military confrontation against Russia, because in Russia, US, China, India, and which also includes UK and France, and also Pakistan and Israel and North Korea, these are all countries which have acquired nuclear weapons. In total, there are 9 nuclear weapon states in the world. Now, none of these 9 nuclear weapon states can have a direct war against each other. They cannot have direct military confrontation with each other, because such a nuclear war would result in mutually assured destruction. This is known as the idea of nuclear deterrence. The term deter means to frighten. Presence of nuclear weapons frighten countries to not fight a direct war against each other. This is what is described as nuclear deterrence, because a nuclear war would result in mutually assured destruction, mad doctrine. So that is also one of the reasons. Because of nuclear deterrence, nuclear weapon states cannot get into direct military confrontation against each other. Nuclear weapon states cannot execute military threats against each other. Even if they want to, they cannot. Therefore, because of these reasons, such reasons, for example, economic interdependence and nuclear deterrence, use of hard power, use of military threats and economic threats have become more difficult and more complex. And also because common global challenges have emerged. Common global challenges have emerged which also forces states to cooperate with each other. For example, climate change, global warming, terrorism, COVID pandemic, such common global challenges are there, and solutions for these challenges are multilateral solutions. That means multiple states will have to come together and work together and cooperate with each other. That is the reason why, students, executing military and economic threats using military power and economic power has become more complex in present day world. That is the reason why, students, one can say that the idea of hard power has lost relevance to some extent, or has lost its significance to some extent. That is the reason why, students, in the decade of 90s, after the end of Cold War, an American scholar gave the concept of soft power. His name is Joseph Nye. Joseph Nye is an American scholar. He's a liberal scholar, and he gave the concept of soft power in the decade of 90s. Joseph Nye has been of the opinion that hard power has been losing relevance. That is why a new idea of power was proposed. A new concept of power was proposed as soft power. And what is soft power? Let's try and understand. Joseph Nye says soft power is the power of attraction. He says soft power is power of attraction. Or in other words, what is soft power? Soft power means build a very attractive brand image of your country. Build a very attractive brand image of your country, such an attractive brand image that the external world would be attracted towards you, that the external world would want to have a good relationship with you, would want to have a friendly relationship with you. That is described as soft power, power of attraction. For example, build such an attractive brand India in the world that the other countries of the world would want to cooperate with India, would want to have good and friendly relationship with India. That is what we mean by soft power. Joseph Nye says that soft power gives a state the ability, because of soft power, sovereign states, they get this ability to achieve their desired outcomes on the basis of persuasion and attraction, and without using coercive methods. What do you mean by coercive method, students? Coercive method means without using force. That means without using military power and without using economic power, without giving military or economic threats, you can still achieve your desired outcomes just on the basis of persuasion or attraction. That is what we understand by soft power. Soft power gives you the ability to achieve your desired outcomes on the basis of persuasion or attraction without using coercive methods, without using hard power methods. That is what is the idea of soft power. Of course, it seems to be a very fascinating idea that the power of attraction, attractive brand image of your country in the world. But the million-dollar question here is, how do you achieve it? How do you develop this soft power? How do you develop power of attraction? So that is also a very pertinent, important question, and Joseph Nye has answered this question. Joseph Nye says, American scholar Joseph Nye says that hard power has two resources. The traditional idea of hard power have two resources, military power and economic power. Similarly, he says soft power has three resources. Which are these three resources of soft power? Culture, political values, and foreign policies. Let's discuss the three one by one. So first soft power resource is culture. With the help of culture, you can develop soft power. What do we mean by this? As a country, as a nation, if you have rich cultural heritage and civilization, and the external world respects your culture, external world gets attracted towards your culture, then your culture can give you power of attraction. Your culture can help you develop brand India in the world, develop soft power for India in the world. For example, students, if I have to give an example of India, so let's take example of yoga. As you all must be very well aware that India has been spending a lot of energy and lot of resources in popularizing yoga all around the world. In fact, we celebrate 21st of June as International Yoga Day. So have you ever wondered why do we do so? And on the International Yoga Day, our leaders, our representatives all around the world, Indian ambassadors all around the world, they organize yoga camps. And why are we doing this? Have you ever wondered? Is there any such system that if somebody does a yoga asana in the world, India would get $1 for it? No, no such system does exist. Then why are we spending so much of energy popularizing yoga? One of the biggest reasons, students, is soft power. The entire yoga campaign is part of India's soft power project. The more popular yoga becomes in the world, the more popular brand India becomes in the world. It helps develop India as a soft power. So that is how you can make use of culture to develop your soft power. And also, students, I'd like to make a clarification here, a very important clarification. You will be able to use culture as a soft power resource if you make positive use of your culture. That means try and showcase your rich culture at a global level, but at the same time, you also must respect culture of other communities, cultures of other nations. You must not indulge in cultural chauvinism. What is cultural chauvinism? When you're trying to tell the world that my culture is superior and your culture is inferior. And if you try and impose your cultural values on others, if you try and force your cultural values on others, then it will not give you soft power. Then it will not give you attraction. Then the world would get more irritated by you. And in fact, instead of becoming more popular, you will instead become more unpopular. So that must not happen. Culture means make positive use of your culture. That means showcase your culture globally, but at the same time also have respect for the cultural values of other communities, cultural values of other nations. You must have mutual respect for each other's culture. Then only culture can be used as a soft power resource. The second soft power resource, students, is political values. And also, what sort of political values, students? Ideal political values which are also put under the umbrella category of liberal political values. If as a sovereign state, if you follow ideal political values or liberal political values, this will also give you power of attraction. This will also help you develop brand India in the world, soft power in the world. Now, many of you must be wondering, what are ideal political values? Examples of ideal or liberal political values. What are the examples? For example, democracy. Democracy is considered as an ideal political value. Secularism, respect for minority rights, also freedom, equality, justice, human rights. These are all considered as a liberal political values or ideal political values. Respect for human rights, respect for rights of the citizens, also the political value of justice, also liberty, equality, freedom. These are all considered as liberal or ideal political values. Now, any sovereign state which follows such liberal political values, which are also known as ideal political values, this will also give you soft power. This will also give you power of attraction, because the external world, they would always respect such political values. The external world, they consider such political values as ideal political values, and they would also want to follow such values, and this will help you develop an attractive brand image of your country in the world. For example, don't you think it's a very attractive campaign when our Prime Minister tells the world that India is mother of all democracies? That makes India more popular. That helps India acquire soft power. So this is also very important. If you follow liberal political values, also known as ideal political values, that will also give you power of attraction. That will also help you have a soft power. And what is the logic behind this? There's a logic also behind this which you must understand, students. Students, we are operating in a world of anarchy. One of the features of international politics is anarchy, that is the absence of authority. And because of anarchy, you can describe international politics as jungle raj, survival of the fittest, where powerful dominates the weak. In international politics, sovereign states are operating in a self-help world because of anarchy. And because of anarchy, it is very difficult for sovereign states to trust each other. It is very difficult to trust each other. One of the biggest problems of international politics is a trust deficit. Trust deficit. In international politics, sovereign states are not able to trust each other. For example, we had made a mistake of trusting China in 1954. If you remember, we had signed a Panchsheel Treaty, friendship treaty with China in 1954. Those were the days of Hindi Chini Bhai Bhai. But what happened later? In 1962, China betrayed India. And despite the friendship treaty, China launched a full-scale attack on India and captured our territories. So that is a very big problem. In international politics, one of the biggest problems is trust deficit. Sovereign states are not able to trust each other. However, in international politics, it is far more easier to trust countries which follow liberal political values. It is far more easier to develop good cordial relations with those countries which have liberal political values. Why? Because if a particular country is a democratic state, democratic governments are seen as accountable governments, as answerable governments, as responsible governments. As you all know, what is democracy? Democracy is government of the people, by the people, for the people. Therefore, democratic government is answerable to its people. It is accountable to its people. Therefore, it would always act as a responsible government. And what do people want? What do the masses want? People want war and conflict and bloodshed, or people want peace and prosperity? The answer to that question is very easy. Of course, the masses would always want peace and prosperity. Therefore, democratic governments are more likely to follow such policies which are good for world peace and world prosperity, which are good for the stability of the world. That is why it is easier to trust a country which is democratic. It is easier to trust a country which follows liberal political values instead of dictatorships, instead of autocracies. For example, can you trust the dictator of North Korea, Kim Jong-un? He is not accountable to anybody. He is not answerable to anybody. If he is in a bad mood tomorrow morning, he may launch a war. But that is not true in case of democratic states. Democratic states have democratic culture. They are answerable to the people. They are more responsible. They are more likely to follow policies which are good for world peace and prosperity. Therefore, as a nation, if you follow such values, democratic values, liberal political values, ideal political values, the external world will respect you. They would want to have a good relationship with you. They would trust you. And that is why your soft power, your power of attraction in the world will increase. In fact, there is one more idea which we very often tell our IR students, that's called democratic peace thesis. What is democratic peace thesis? Democratic peace thesis say that since the Second World War, we haven't seen a direct war between two democratic states. Two democratic states have not fought a direct war against each other since the Second World War, which means that if number of democratic governments will multiply in the world, then the world will become more peaceful. That is why we have this idea called democracy promotion. But students, also don't misunderstand me. When I say two democratic governments have not fought a war, direct war against each other since Second World War, I mean real democracies. Those countries which are democratic in the real spirit, in the true spirit, they follow democratic principles. I do not mean pseudo-democracies. In this particular thesis, in this particular idea, we are not including pseudo-democracies. What is a pseudo-democracy? Pseudo-democracy is a country which claims to be democratic, but in reality, it is not democratic. Which claims to be democratic, which creates a facade of democracy, an illusion of democracy, but in reality, it is not democratic. In reality, it does not follow democratic principles. Best example, our neighbor Pakistan. Pakistan is a pseudo-democracy. In Pakistan, you have elections. In Pakistan, they have an elected prime minister who right now is Shahbaz Sharif. But what do you think? Do you think the real power center in Pakistan is the prime minister? Do you think the elected prime minister takes decisions in Pakistan? No. The real power center in Pakistan is the military. The army generals, they are the ones who are wielding power. They are the ones who are real decision makers. The prime minister is a dummy. Prime minister is a puppet in the hands of the Pakistan's military establishment, right now headed by Asim Munir. He is the real decision maker in Pakistan. He is the real power center in Pakistan. The prime minister is a puppet in the hands of the military establishment. Therefore, Pakistan is a pseudo-democracy. And right now they have a prime minister. But in the past we have seen Pakistan did not have prime ministers also. In the past we have seen in Pakistan there have been military coups. What is a military coup? When an army general would replace the elected government, civilian government, and impose military dictatorship in the country. An army general himself becomes the military dictator. This has happened multiple times in Pakistan's history. For example, Yahya Khan, Ayub Khan, Zia-ul Haq. Recent example, General Pervez Musharraf. So military coups have happened in Pakistan multiple times. In fact, in one of the past incidents, General Zia-ul Haq in Pakistan had assassinated, had killed the elected Prime Minister Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, father of Benazir Bhutto, grandfather of Bilawal Bhutto, and General Zia-ul Haq, the army general himself, had become the military dictator, the president of the country. So Pakistan is an example of pseudo-democracy. Similarly, in many countries you may have seen where they claim to be democratic, but in reality they are not following democratic principles. Free and fair elections are not held. Political opponents are imprisoned or eliminated. So that cannot be considered as a real democracy. So when we say no two democratic governments have fought a direct war against each other since Second World War, we mean real democracies like India. The best example can be India. India is a real democracy where democratic principles are followed in true spirit. Free and fair elections are held. Multiple political parties participate in the electoral process, and multiple political parties compete with each other for power. And the elected government has power. Elected government takes all decisions. So that is an example. India is a good example. Then Europe is a good example. North America is a good example. These parts of the world, you would see real democracies. So if you are a democratic country, of course, if you follow liberal political values, like India's entire constitution is based on liberal political values, you read the preamble of the constitution, you'll find all these liberal political values. If that is the case, then this will give you soft power. This will give you power of attraction. Then the external world would respect you. The external world would have a favorable opinion about you. They would want to cooperate with you. They would trust you. So that is what takes place. And vice versa is also true. What do you mean by vice versa? That means if a democratic country starts violating liberal principles, starts violating liberal values, for example, human rights violations starts taking place, or minority rights violations start taking place, or it starts curtailing freedom of speech and expression, or democratic institutions are being weakened, if that happens in a democratic state, then it will start losing soft power. Then the popularity of that particular country globally will start decreasing. So that is also true. Vice versa is also true. So this is the second soft power resource. The third soft power resource is, students, foreign policy. The third soft power resource is foreign policy. And what sort of foreign policy? Again, such foreign policy which will command the legitimacy of the world, which the external world would also support, and it will be easy for you to implement such foreign policies. So what sort of foreign policies would command the legitimacy of the external world? Again, ideal foreign policies. Again, foreign policies which are based on liberal perspective, liberal foreign policy or ideal foreign policy. Now, what do you mean by this? What do we mean by this? A state following a foreign policy which can be considered as ideal by the external world. Students, there's a theoretical perspective to understand international politics called idealism. And idealism says that sovereign states, they should cooperate with each other. Sovereign states should cooperate with each other. They should try and resolve all their conflicts peacefully. They should try and develop peaceful relations with each other, friendly relations with each other. Sovereign states should follow the approach of multilateralism. What do you mean by multilateralism? That means multiple countries must cooperate, multiple countries should work together and try and resolve common global challenges like climate change, like global warming. And the best example of multilateralism can be United Nations. 193 sovereign states are members of UN. That means UN is a common platform for 193 sovereign states to cooperate with each other and resolve all problems peacefully and resolve common global challenges like terrorism, like COVID pandemic, like climate change, global warming. Many such issues are there. So these assumptions that sovereign states should cooperate with each other, sovereign states should follow a multilateral foreign policy, sovereign states should respect international institutions like United Nations, IMF, World Bank, WTO. These are features of an ideal foreign policy. Also, furthermore, students, sovereign states should have free trade with each other. They should sign free trade agreements. Sovereign states should respect international institutions, international organizations which would facilitate cooperation between states. And also sovereign states should respect international law. If sovereign states will respect international law, this will help us create a rule-based order. A rule-based order which is good for world peace and stability. And also sovereign states should respect human rights. Now, all of this are features of an ideal foreign policy, features of a liberal foreign policy, that sovereign states should cooperate, they should follow the principle of multilateralism, they should resolve all their problems, should have peaceful and friendly relations with each other. Sovereign states should support international organizations like United Nations, concepts like collective security, and also sovereign states should have free trade, they should respect international law, which will help us create a rule-based order, and there should be also respect for human rights. That is how we can have an ideal world. That is how we can have a world of peace, stability, and prosperity. So any country which will follow such foreign policy, naturally such a country would be respected in the world. Naturally such a country will command the external respect of the world. Naturally such countries' foreign policies would also be supported by the external world. And it will be easy for such a country to implement such policies because such policies are considered as legitimate foreign policies. And this will also give you power of attraction. This will also give you soft power. For example, students, India in the year 2023, India hosted the G20 summit. And what was the theme of the G20 summit? The theme of the G20 summit was Vasudev Kutumbakam. That means India considers the whole world as one kutumb. That means one family. For us, the whole world is one family. And we would want to cooperate with all the countries of the world and ensure the welfare and prosperity and security of the entire world. That is the essence of the Indian foreign policy. And you can say that is an example of ideal or liberal foreign policy. And that will help us create brand India in the world. That will help us create India's soft power. So students, these are the three soft power resources which I have discussed with you. With the help of these three resources, you can develop soft power. That is culture, political values, and foreign policy. And the vice versa is also true. For example, if a particular state, if they have a very aggressive foreign policy, if a particular state tries to capture territories of other nations, it threatens the national security of other nations, if it follows a unilateral foreign policy where it does not have the desire to cooperate with other nations, such a sovereign state would not become popular. In fact, it will become more unpopular. It will not have power of attraction if it has a policy of aggression, if it follows a aggressive foreign policy. For example, Russia's unilateral decision to attack Ukraine has made Russia less popular in the world. For example, Israel's killing of 70,000 Palestinians in Gaza, in which they had also bombed hospitals. More than 50% of the casualties were women and children. Blatant human rights violations were committed. This act of Israel has made Israel less popular in the world. Its soft power has decreased. Also, America's military adventurism, America abducting Venezuela's President Maduro and his wife and telling them that they are drug smugglers and installing a puppet government in Venezuela, and America also eliminating the leader of Iran. These are unilateral policies. That means America is following aggressive foreign policy. America does not have the desire to cooperate with the world. America has also withdrawn from Paris Climate Agreement, again a unilateral act. When a particular country does not have the desire to cooperate with other nations, we describe such a state as a unilateral state which does not want to cooperate with others. So such American aggressive policies, unilateral policies, have reduced America's soft power. So as long as you have an ideal foreign policy, a liberal foreign policy, your soft power will increase. But the moment you start following aggressive foreign policies, unilateral foreign policies, threatening the security of other nations, that is when it will be counterproductive. That is when your soft power will decrease, your attraction will decrease, your brand image will be tarnished in the world, and instead of becoming popular, you will become more unpopular. So that is how it works. So these are the three soft power resources. Now students, there's one more tool which can be used to develop soft power, which is also very popular, which also you must understand. It is called public diplomacy. Public diplomacy can also be used to develop a soft power. Public diplomacy is an idea which can help a particular state maintain and develop a soft power. What is public diplomacy? Public diplomacy means that sovereign states should also try and engage with foreign publics, foreign populations. They should use their soft power resources, mobilize their soft power resources to also engage with foreign populations, foreign publics, because if the foreign populations would get attracted towards you, then their governments will also reciprocate. And that is how the attractiveness of your country will increase in the world. Your soft power will increase. For example, students, let's take this example of India itself. As far as India is concerned, Ministry of External Affairs have established a public diplomacy division. A public diplomacy division have been established in the Ministry of External Affairs. That means India's ministries actively pursuing public diplomacy. Indian diplomats are trying to engage with foreign populations also, foreign publics also, which will help us develop India's soft power. How? For example, if if foreign population, foreign publics, they are impressed by India's culture, they are impressed by Indian values, then they will develop a favorable opinion about Indian culture and Indian values. And if that is the case, then these foreign people, foreign publics, they will also tell their elected governments to pursue good relationship with India. They will also tell their elected governments to have cordial, friendly relations with India, which will increase India's soft power. That is how public diplomacy works. For example, if the Indian embassy in France and Indian diplomats in France are pursuing public diplomacy, that means they are making an effort to engage with the French people. For example, they're organizing yoga camps, Indian cultural festivals, Indian movie festivals, Indian food festivals in France. They're also trying to engage with the youth of France, visiting the colleges and universities of France, and trying to engage with the youth, organizing student exchange programs, scholarships to French students who study in India, and also holding academic seminars. For example, you can tell French students that how Indian political system is based on the values of French Revolution, equality, liberty, and fraternity. If you do such events, students, you will be able to connect with the French people. If French people will come and attend the events like Indian Cultural Festival, yoga camp, or a food festival, they will appreciate Indian culture. So if you are able to engage with the French people, with the French public, and the French public is impressed by the idea of India, impressed by the culture of India, impressed by Indian values, then these French people, which have developed a favorable opinion about India, they will tell their elected government to have good, friendly, cordial relationship with India. Therefore, India's soft power will increase. India's popularity in the world will increase. That is how public diplomacy works. That is why in the Ministry of External Affairs, we have a separate department called Public Diplomacy Division, which is responsible to do public diplomacy on the behalf of India, engaging with foreign publics, foreign populations, developing brand India in the world. So these are all the resources which can be used, students, to develop soft power. Now, before you get too impressed by this idea, I would also like to discuss with you limitations of the idea of soft power. So let's discuss the limitations also. In order to understand limitations of the idea of soft power, we must compare hard and soft power. So let's do that. First of all, I will tell you, students, about the strengths of hard power. What are the strengths of hard power? The biggest strength of hard power, students, is that hard power is tangible. Hard power is tangible. And now what do you understand by tangible? Tangible means something which has material existence. Something which can be quantifiable, which can be quantified, which you can touch, you can feel, that is tangible. So hard power has material existence. Hard power is quantifiable. You can measure the amount of military power you have. You can quantify the military power you have. You can count how many guns and weapons and soldiers and missiles you have. You can also quantify the economic power. You can measure the GDP of the country, foreign exchange reserves of the country. All of this is quantifiable. So therefore, hard power is tangible. That is the biggest strength of hard power, that it is tangible. Now, because it is tangible, therefore it is under the strict control of the state. State controls hard power. State has complete clarity over how much hard power it has. It can measure the impact of hard power. It knows the quantity of hard power also which it possesses. And also it is under the strict control of the state. State can use hard power for whatever purpose they want to use it for. And hard power will also give you immediate results, immediate impacts. Like, for example, Prime Minister Modi knows that I have high precision guided missiles which I can use to destroy terrorist camps operating from Pakistan's territory, Operation Sindoor, like we did recently. So if you have hard power, you know how much ability you have and what impact it will have. Prime Minister Modi knows that I have intercontinental ballistic missiles, I have short-range missiles, long-range missiles. If I press few buttons and launch missiles, I can destroy Karachi and Lahore tomorrow. That means you know your ability, you know what impact it will have. It is also under the control of the state, and state can use hard power for whatever purpose they want to use it for. It will also give you immediate results. Also, students, hard power is compelling in nature. It is also compelling in nature. It is coercive in nature. That means with the help of hard power, you can compel other nations to change their policies. You can force other nations to change their policies. For example, America is using its military power and its economic power to force Iran to change policies in Persian Gulf. America is trying to execute military threats, and with the help of military threats, it is trying to compel Iran to change its policy as far as development of nuclear weapons is concerned and as far as control of Strait of Hormuz is concerned. So with the help of hard power, you can compel and force other nations to change their policies. Now, these are the strengths of a hard power. Now, if you compare this with soft power, when you compare it with soft power, you realize that whatever strengths hard power has is not present in soft power. Soft power does not have any of these three strengths. Soft power is not tangible. Soft power does not have material existence. Soft power is ideational. Why do I call it ideational? Because what is soft power? Power of attraction. Attraction means human emotion. And human emotions cannot be quantified. Can you quantify human emotions? Can you say, my friend is 10 units uglier than yesterday or 20 units prettier than yesterday? You cannot do that. So soft power is ideational. It is a psychological concept. It does not have material existence. It is not tangible. Now, because it is not tangible, therefore, it is not under the strict control of the state. Soft power is not controlled by the state. State does not even know how much soft power they have. They do not even know what impact it will have. And they also cannot, use it for whatever purpose they want to use it for. It is very diffused in nature. It is not strictly controlled by the state. And it will also not give you immediate results. For example, students, do you think Prime Minister Modi has such a situation where he can go into his office and open up his almirah and pull out 2 kgs of soft power and bomb Karachi and Lahore with yoga and butter chicken? Is that going to happen? No, that's not going to happen. You cannot use soft power in the manner in which you can use your hard power. So it is not under the strict control of the state. It will also not give you immediate results because earning the respect of the world may take decades, may take years. It's a long-term process and it is very diffused. So you don't even know how much you have, what impact it will have. Also, it is not compelling in nature. It is not coercive in nature. In fact, soft power is voluntary in nature. It is voluntary in nature. You cannot force people to get attracted towards you. It is voluntary in nature. So that is also another limitation. So because of this, you should keep it in mind that soft power may be a very exciting idea, very fascinating idea, but it has a lot of limitations. It does not have the strengths of hard power. Therefore, students, over-reliance on soft power can be counterproductive. As a sovereign state, if you over-rely on soft power, that can be counterproductive. That will backfire because hard power is equally important. In fact, more important. Yes, nature of hard power must have changed. Using hard power has become more complex in today's world of globalization, but that does not mean that hard power has lost its relevance. Hard power is equally important, in fact, more important. So you cannot ignore your hard power. Pursuing soft power as a sovereign state, if you pursue soft power, there's no harm in it. It's a harmless exercise. What is soft power? It's like a PR exercise. It's like building your brand India in the world. There's no harm in doing that. But if you try and develop soft power at the cost of ignoring your hard power, that is very dangerous. That will be counterproductive. That will backfire. You cannot develop soft power at the cost of ignoring your hard power. Hard power is equally important. For example, if I take the example of India students. Now, in India's case, soft power can help us to pursue good relations with Sri Lanka and Bhutan. Why? Because in Sri Lanka and Bhutan, majority of the people, they follow Buddhism. India is the birthland of Buddhism. We have Buddhist history, Buddhist culture, and we can use that to develop good relations with Sri Lanka and Bhutan, and even countries of Southeast Asia and Central Asia where Buddhism is followed. And we do that also. For example, recently Prime Minister Modi visited Sri Lanka. He did visit a Buddhist temple in Sri Lanka, trying to use our Buddhist culture and Buddhist history to develop soft power relations with these countries. Similarly, soft power can help us develop good ties with Nepal, because Nepal is a Hindu majority country. You may be aware there are important and famous Hindu temples like Janaki Temple and Pashupatinath Temple in Nepal. And India is also a Hindu majority country. So we share common Hindu culture, common Hindu history, common Hindu values, which can help us develop good friendly relations with Nepal. But when it comes to hostile neighbors like Pakistan and China, do you think soft power is sufficient to counter or to deal with hostile neighbors like Pakistan and China? No. That is where India will need hard power. That is where hard power is required. Can you tell Pakistan that we have common Punjabi culture? So let's celebrate our common Punjabi culture. Let's have a Punjabi concert, Punjabi music concert, Diljit Dosanjh concert together. Let's have Bhangra together, and you leave POK. Is that going to happen? No. In order to get back your territory from Pakistan, you need a hard power. Can you tell the Chinese, let's have a yoga camp together and you leave our territory Exaichen? No. To deal with Pakistan and China, India will need a hard power. Hard power was used in recent Operation Sindoor with Pakistan. If India wants to become a permanent member of the UN Security Council, hard power is required. If India wants to become a global power, hard power is required. If India wants to become Viksit Bharat by 2047, hard power is required. So hard power is more important, in fact, much more important than soft power. So one should not ignore hard power. If you're only relying on soft power, ignoring your hard power, then you are making the mistake of being too idealistic and you are not realistic. Because idea of hard power is supported by realism, idea of soft power is supported by idealism. And one should not be too idealistic. You also have to be realistic. You have to get a reality check also. So that is the reason why Joseph Nye himself, the one who gave the idea of soft power, Joseph Nye himself has said that sovereign states should pursue smart power. What do you mean by smart power? Smart power means an ideal mix of soft power plus hard power. An ideal mix of soft power plus hard power is described as smart power. That means equal amount of importance should be given to both the ideas. Then you become a smart power. That's what Joseph Nye has also said. So we should be pursuing smart power, and I'm quite glad to tell you that India has been pursuing smart power. India is a smart power. We have a very active soft power policy, but at the same time we have been trying to strengthen India's hard power. And we have been trying to strengthen India militarily and economically. The equal amount of importance, in fact more importance, we give to hard power. You cannot be too idealistic. You also have to be realistic in international politics. To protect your national interest, to protect your national security, that is where hard power also plays a very important role. So whenever you get a question on soft power in the examination, in fact in the essay paper also UPSC have been asking students to write essays on soft power, your concluding paragraph should always be about a smart power. For example, students, China's Belt and Road Initiative. China's Belt and Road Initiative is an example of smart power, because through BRI, China is making heavy economic investments in Asian countries and African countries, which is giving China more and more influence and dominance. China is also pursuing debt trap diplomacy and giving economic threats to poor countries also, which have become victims of China's debt trap. But at the same time, in the BRI project of China, China is also trying to invoke its history and culture. China is trying to say that through BRI, we are trying to revive our old Silk Route connections. Old Silk Route connections we are trying to revive. So they are trying to use its history and culture also in the same idea. That means BRI idea of China, BRI project of China, the Belt and Road Initiative has a soft power dimension and also has a hard power dimension. And therefore it is a good mix of soft plus hard power, which is described as smart power. Now that we've understood the concept of soft power, so I'm sure you all must be very curious that what is India's soft power policy? What all decisions the government of India has taken to pursue soft power, and a detailed discussion on that is also required. But unfortunately, students, I have run out of time here. So I will not be able to discuss that in this particular video, but I will wait for all of you to be in my classes. Once I see you in the classroom, we'll definitely have a discussion on India's soft power resources also, India's soft power policy also. And I would really like all of you to also share your thoughts on what is soft power and smart power, and what do you think about these different dimensions of power in the comment box, students. Thank you so much, students. I hope to see you in my classroom, and we'll have more engaging discussions like this one which we had today. Thank you, students. All the best.